Hello, everybody. Today we're going to get some post-election feedback, and we've got this Harvard-Harris poll. It's going to cover the economy, approval ratings, the election, issues, endorsements, etc. There's going to be a lot of slides here. We're not going to cover all of them, but we are going to go fairly quickly, and we can see here the polling was conducted November 13th through the 14th. That wasn't yesterday, but it was clearly after the election, and they used 1,732 registered voters by the Harris poll and Harris X. As always, it's just one poll, but they do have a lot of data here. So let's get into it. First, we've got approval and mood of country. Here's your right track, wrong track. And what you might want to take note of here is comparing these last two columns, October through November. The number of GOP voters that say we're on the right track went from 15 to 32. For the Dems, it plummeted from 52 down to 29. Independents also dipped from 23 to 17. And this next one here is specifically about the economy. And for a lot of voters, it just pretty much comes down to whoever's in the White House. That's unfortunately how politics works. If last month you thought the economy was not so great, I would think that should be the same. If you thought it was decent last month, I also don't know why you would think it's no longer the case. Next, we've got more economy. We're going to skip over this. Always feel free to pause it if you'd like. Do voters think their personal financial situation is improving or getting worse? 27% say improving. 45% say getting worse. That's going to be a challenge for Trump once he gets in there. He's got to at least put a big dent in that. If we get a year and a half into his term and voters still think things are getting worse, that could be bad news for him in the midterms. And we've got 10% of people that say their personal economies are excellent right now. Even in a bad situation or a depression, there's always going to be a few people that make out really well on that. But I'd still love to know who these 10% of people are right now. How about approval ratings for Biden? He's held steady. He's at 42%. That's low, but it's also not something we haven't seen for the past couple of years. How about Biden on key issues? And this, his lowest at 32% is the Israel-Hamas conflict, and his best at 47 is going to be racial equity. How about Trump as president-elect? 54% approve of the job he's doing, 40% disapprove. With independents, it's going to be 49 approve, 39 disapprove. Now we've got approval of the Republican Party. That's ticked up a little bit. It's at 49 approve, 51 disapprove. I also like for just 2 months here, they had an option that included don't know. I guess that wasn't working out for him. They scrapped it after November 2021. Next, how about the approval of the Democratic Party? Well, that's at 44%. Disapprove is up to 56. I assume that's what's going to happen after you take a loss. It's not going to reflect too well on the party at large. How about congressional approval? It's only at 29%, and that's actually almost the lowest it's been during the entire term of Biden. Let's see some other approval ratings. Well, Barack Obama has the highest here. He's at 55 favorable, 35 unfavorable. That's a big 19-point gap favorable. Trump is 2% positive, Harris is 2% in the red, RFK Jr. is +9, Elon Musk +1, Joe Biden -12. And then after that, it does start to drop off. A lot of voters have no opinion until you get all the way down to Vladimir Putin, who is at -60%. Next, how about favorability of institutions? Not much to say here. The highest is U.S. military at +68. The lowest is going to be Russia and Hamas at -58 and 57. Here's the top two issues. Not a surprise at all. It's price increases / inflation and immigration. Economy and jobs is right under that. Then you've got to drop off and you've got women's rights and health care. I assume that's the category abortion is going to fall under. And inflation is the issue that by far is the most important to you personally at 45%. Even here, Democrats have abortion at 18. That's way under inflation. And we've got more inflation data here. Not a surprise. People think it's been going on way too long. I remember at the beginning they said it would be transitory, but that proved to not be the case, and a lot of that is going to be why Trump is back in office. Now we can get into the election. We've got 82% here that says they voted in the November election. 18% says they did not vote. It's going to be 86% of Dems, 87% GOP, and 70% independent. Here's the reasons why people did not vote. The most there is 28% that said I was not motivated to do so. Next, how about how people voted? 32% say in person before election day, 31% by mail, and 37% in person on election day. There's a little bit of a gap here by political party for by mail. It's Democrats with a 6-point lead. And who did you vote for? We've got 50% for Trump, 48% for Harris. That pretty much lines up with the popular vote. And they've got independents here, 49 breaking for Trump, 45 for Harris. Now how about when did you make up your mind on who you were voting for? 9% said the day of the election. 9% said the week of the election. Another 8 said late October. But by far the most here is before September at 56%. Let's keep it moving. We've got 3 and 4 voters chose change rather than continuity at the ballot box. Looks like that's 76% that says they voted for change. Only 24 said continuity. And 80% voted for their candidate based on their position on the issues. Only 20% voted for personal qualities. Now we've got 4 issues here: inflation, immigration, abortion, and climate change. How significant were those issues to your vote? For all of those except for climate change, 26 to 29% said it was the main reason for their vote. Now let's go down here. What about these events from the presidential campaign? Did they make you more or less likely to vote for Trump? Well, the biggest one is the debate between Harris and Trump. 36% said it made them more likely to vote for Trump. Only 24% said less likely. A lot of people said Trump lost that debate, and I do think Harris did better in it, but that might have been many Americans' first exposure to Harris, and maybe it just didn't pan out for him. Then we've got Trump's assassination attempt. That also made people more likely to vote for him at 32%. Same with no taxes on tips, that also got 32%. A couple of things that seem to have no impact here are Trump riding around in a garbage truck to make fun of the media, and Trump dishing out fries at McDonald's. Also, the endorsements of Oprah and Taylor Swift for Harris, looks like those had almost no impact either. But the joke about Puerto Rico at Trump's rally toward the end, that did have a clear negative impact at 28% that said less likely. But for the most part, most of this stuff did not have any kind of a dramatic impact. Then we've got Republicans benefiting in some of the down ballot races, and then we could get into the Trump transition and his priorities. Here we've got 54% that think Donald Trump has been trying to unify the country since the election. 46% say he's been trying to divide. Independents are split evenly at 50-50. 48% think Trump is a threat to democracy. 52% think that was just overblown campaign rhetoric. Then we've got Trump's criminal trials. 53% think he should still be tried. 47% think that the cases should be dismissed. With Hunter Biden, only 25% think he should be pardoned, 75% say no. Then we've got 55% that think Trump is governing from the right, 33% say the middle, and 12% say the left. And what about Trump's mandate? 50% think that he received a strong mandate, 21% think it was a weak mandate, and 29% say there was no mandate at all. This one has Dems very split on it. 38% say no mandate, 34 weak, and 28 strong. How about the favorability of Trump's cabinet picks? Well, there's a lot of polarization here, and that's expected when an incoming president is going to come in. The base is usually going to be excited, the opposition is going to be demoralized. So we've got everybody here from Elon Musk at the top, all the way down to Lee Zeldin at the bottom. But still, there's just a huge chunk that have no opinion of any of these picks. What about some Trump priorities? We've got conducting deportations of the illegal immigrants here who have committed crimes. That has strong support at 52%. Another 20% say they somewhat support that. I suppose that might depend on how you define committed crime. I think most people would agree if they're felonies, but if they're lighter than that, down to misdemeanors, then you might get a little bit more opposition. We've got ending the conflict between Israel and Hamas. That one also has strong support. How about ending government payments for sex change operations for prisoners and illegal aliens? That's another one with massive support. And then another immigration one, closing the border by reinstating past immigration policies that discouraged illegal immigration. Those top 4 do not seem very controversial at all. Now, the ones that have lower amounts of support are going to be imposing new trade tariffs on China to help American manufacturing, and having Elon Musk head a new government task force to cut fraud, waste, and abuse. But the one with the least support here is going to be launching a strategic U.S. government Bitcoin reserve to mitigate against the effects of inflation. That one has weak support, but I think a lot of people have no idea what it even is. I'm also not even going to pretend to know any of those details. So most of that stuff does have some decent support. I'm sure once it starts to get implemented, then there's going to be more pushback, there could be protests, and there could always be some story, whether it's rightly or wrongly, that blows up and changes public perception. Then we've got, what are your greatest hopes for the newly elected administration? By far, it's 68% that say it's to end inflation and price increases. That easily comes back to, it's the economy, stupid. If people think the price increases have leveled off, if they think they're not struggling as much, and if unemployment is not spiking, those things combined go a long way. Even if just one of those things is really bad, people are going to think the economy overall is not doing well. Now, how about the biggest fears for the upcoming administration? 46% say it's Trump behaving like a dictator. 40% say it's political gridlock or chaos. For the GOP here, we've got 47%, that's the most, that say they're most concerned about massive protests by the left. There's always going to be challenges that come up in a new administration. So Trump does have an opportunity here to change the direction and actually have some sort of popularity. But there's going to be tons of hurdles in his way. Things could go bad quickly. The media coverage is also going to be another concern. And then we've got a few more things here at the end. We've got news consumption. This is not that that important, I'm pretty much going to just skip over these. This just tells you where people are getting their news and from what source. And then this asks, do you think the coverage around the election was fair or biased? It's pretty much split. 51% say fair, 49% biased. Of those who thought it was biased, 57% thought it was against Trump, 29% said it was against Harris. Independents there said 25 Harris, 51 Trump. And then if you want to know where people are getting their news from, a lot of it is still the standard major corporate mainstream news outlets. But we've also got people using Facebook, Google, YouTube, and TikTok. Now, if you want to know how voters perceive the bias of these different outlets, here it is right here. And most of these TV outlets do have a perception that they favor the left. The only obvious exceptions here are going to be Fox News and Newsmax. For social media platforms, the balance is a little bit closer. But now we've got X has a little bit more of a right-leaning bias. But a couple others like Google or Reddit, looks like those are slanted a little bit toward the left, or at least that's the perception. And then we've got yet even more coverage of the election. I'm going to breeze over these and get to the last few slides. But 55% think the mainstream coverage was tilted for political ends. Only 45% say it was fair coverage of the issues. And finally, we've got endorsements. This is kind of a weird question, but it asks, how aware of the following endorsements were you? The ones over 50% are going to be Elon Musk, Taylor Swift, and Oprah. All the way at the bottom, we've got Leonardo DiCaprio. And surprisingly, only 40% were aware of Joe Rogan's endorsement. Maybe that's because it was at the last second. But how much do these endorsements even matter? Well, the majority of these people say they had no impact at all. All of them were at least 52%. The ones that had the most impact are going to be Elon Musk. 25% said it was significant. Joe Rogan was at 19%. And a few months ago, everybody was talking about Taylor Swift. That was a 12% significant impact. And again, at the bottom here, maybe we can feel bad for Leonardo DiCaprio. I don't even know who he endorsed, but I'm almost certain it would be for Harris. 72% say he had no impact. And finally, this is the list that had the biggest impact. Elon Musk is at 71, Rogan is at 43, and Taylor Swift at 36. If you look at the partisan breakdown here on the right, it's pretty much what we would expect. But again, Leonardo DiCaprio, still only 15% of Dems said that had any impact. So that's it. That's a quick look at this Harvard-Harris poll. There's a lot more there that we didn't go over, but that kind of gives you a sense on the mood of the country following the Trump win. I'm sure it's going to change over the next couple of months once Trump actually gets into office. I'm expecting it to be crazy. Of course, Biden is going to be on his way out. He's bound to do some last-minute executive actions and some pardons. Who knows what's going to happen? Hopefully things get better for the country. It all doesn't have to be perfect, but even if you could get halfway there, these days I'm going to say that's a pretty solid win. So let me know in the comments, what do you think about any of the data in this poll? Do you agree with it? Do you disagree with it? Let me know down below on your way out. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Join if you'd like to support the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.